already, go ahead and grab this link. There's a few links embedded within the slides. And then also, before you leave here, make sure that you grab a stack of the papers over here. That grab enough for your advisory group, if you have advisory. So this training is going to be basically split into two parts. The first part being advanced features in Schoology, and then the second part being student portfolios, which you will roll out in advisory next week. So that's why it's kind of lengthy. I apologize. I'm going to do a lot of talking, and that's not my jam, but just bear with me, please. If I haven't gotten a chance to introduce myself to anybody in here, I'm Jessica Rodriguez. I'm your new instructional technology specialist, and I'm split between here and Forest Meadow. I tried to send out an email just kind of showing a schedule of when I'll be here, but if I'm not here, just shoot me an email, and I'll try my best to answer any questions you have. Jessica?
And I'm Ashley Bryan. If I haven't met you in past years working with the campus, I am on the I team, so I just support secondary schools with using technology. So I get to work with Jessica and just here to help and make sure y'all are taken care of today.
Okay, so just a few housekeeping items before we get into it. First off, if you have done your teacher portfolio, the slides that were shared out before said to publish it, but you really need to make sure that it's not published. So to look for that, you'll just open up Schoology. Cool, I'm still logged in. And look for your portfolio. So click on your name, click your profile, and portfolios under your picture. And just make sure that the circle on your portfolio is clear and not green. If it's green, just click it and it will unpublish. The reason being, if it is published, anybody who clicks on your name in Schoology will be able to see your portfolio and everything in it. That includes parents and students. And yeah, so we don't want that. Just make sure that it's unpublished. This doesn't affect the ability for you to put your link into your Eduphoria. It just unpublishes it for the general public. Oh, also, if you have your icon already in there and it says 23-24, on this slide, there's the portfolio icon for this year. If you feel so inclined to change it. If you have one that you made yourself, that's totally fine too. Also, another housekeeping, if you are still getting bombarded with emails from Schoology, make sure that you have managed your notifications. All you have to do the same way, you'll just click on your name in the top right corner, click settings, and then the notifications tab. I turned off all notifications because I go into Schoology every day. I don't need anything to notify me. But you have multiple things that you can decide whether or not to get emails about it. You can also customize those notifications per course. So if you want a certain course's notifications, you can customize it that way by opening the course and clicking notifications and choosing what you want from that course. Any questions so far? Am I going too fast? Okay. Awesome. Last little bit of housekeeping. Make sure that anytime that you share anything from Google with your students, that it's viewable to Richardson ISD. Otherwise, they can't see it. So, for example, if you post a slides in there, and to you it looks great, it's viewable. If it's not Richardson ISD, students will just see a box that doesn't have anything in it. Okay. So now we're going into the advanced features. So the first one, which I think you guys are you guys all RLA? Okay, cool. So the first one is asynchronous learning with completion rules. This is really good for when you're pulling small groups. So small group instruction, and you're having other students do things while you're pulling those small groups. Or if you are absent for a day and you still want students to be able to actually get some work done while you're not there. So the way that works is within your course, you'll create a folder of all of the things that you want your students to complete within the time. So if I have all of these assignments that I want my students to complete while I'm pulling small groups and they can do it self-directed, I will put them all into the folder. Once you've placed them all in the one folder, then you'll just hit the settings wheel next to the folder and click student completion. Here's where the magic happens. So you decide how you want students to turn things into you, what criteria they need to meet in order for them to be successful. So there's a couple of things you can do. First off, you can decide what order they finish things in. This is particularly good if you have like a passage that you want them to read before they answer questions, because we know they love to go and answer questions without reading the passage first. So you can choose that, or you can just have them do it in any order. It's up to you. But once you've chosen the sequential order, you can select the order of those assignments. So, for example, I want them to complete the discussion board first. When I choose that assignment, so it comes out of a drop down, then I can choose the criteria that students have to meet to complete that assignment. So with the discussion board, for example, I have a couple of options here. I can either just make it so that they have to look at it, or I make it so that they have to post a comment or reply. For a page, that's what this icon means. It's just consumable, so the only option I have is for them to view the item, but that's really good for those like passages or instructions for the day. Comprehension check. So anything that's an assessment within Schoology, I can decide a minimum score that students must meet. So this is really good while you're pulling small groups and they're working on their own. If they don't meet this criteria of 70 on that assessment, they have to come and talk to me before they can move on. So they, yeah, that distracted me too. So if they don't get a 70, then they need to come and tell me why they didn't get a 70, and we'll have a discussion on how they can do better and give them another chance to do it over again. So there's also another kind of assessment, the same kinds of choices for you. You can also just tell them that they have to make a submission. You don't have to put a minimum score on there. It's up to you and what your purposes are. Anytime you're linking to an external product, such as Formative or Savas or things like that, the only option you have is to view the item, since it's not embedded and directly linked with as a Schoology assignment. Once you've decided all those criteria, you'll click Save Changes, and you'll know that it worked if it has the must complete underneath it. And for students, they'll be able to go in and this is what they'll see. When they go to that assignment, they'll be able to see everything that they have to do, which is great for self-pacing, but they won't be able to access the next thing. Like, it won't even let them click until they've completed the criteria that you set for them for the previous item. So this one, I must view it before I can go on to the next part of my assignment, but now this is blue and I'm able to click it. So otherwise they won't be able to even go into it. So that is asynchronous learning with completion rules. Any questions? Cool. But yeah, I'm thinking, my brain always goes to RLA because that's kind of what I have experience in, and pulling those small groups, this is really great for that time. Okay, so Schoology also has a lot of really cool differentiation tools. Similarly to Google Classroom, you can assign specific documents and things to specific students, But Schoology takes it a step further, and you can assign to specific groups of students. So this is really useful if you have students who always get content language supports, or they always need an adapted text, or things like that. If you have groups of students who need the same accommodation, this makes it a lot quicker when assigning those things. Instead of having to select each student separately, you just have to select the group when you're assigning. So the way you'll do that is on the left-hand side, click members. Oh, helps if I'm in my teacher account. And then over here on the right, it doesn't look like a button until you hover over it. But this is where you'll create the groups. So you'll see I have some examples I created already, like modified, language supports, extensions. These names of the groups the students will not see. It's just purely for you. Students won't see it and parents won't see it when they log in. So this is purely for you. So you can make a group for text to speech, for example. You'll name the group and select who gets put into that group. And then the group is made for you. You can either see the group members by clicking on that group, and it'll narrow down to those, or if you're scrolling through, you'll see underneath their name the labels that you gave them. They can be in more than one group. So it's really a cool tool. Cool, they're labeled what do I get to do next. So whenever you're creating an assignment and you're assigning it, down here under options, there's an individually assigned option. When you click that, you still have the option to assign to specific students. But if you have a group of students that you want, instead of having to go and individually find those students every time, you can just search for that group and assign it to the group. So this is great because I know we have like 100 something students per person, close to at least. So this will make it easier as far as not having to remember every single time who has that same thing. So for just to give you an example, and like I said, my mind always goes to RLA. If you're having a scaffolded assignment, you can have different versions of that same assignment. So poetry A, B, C. When you name the assignment, the students do see the names of the assignment. So don't say poetry modified, poetry language reports, because that's, kind of defeating the purpose. So ABC, 1, 2, 3, red, blue, yellow, however you want to label it for the differentiated pieces, but then you can assign to those individual groups. And they'll just see, oh, there's different versions. Maybe she just doesn't want me to cheat. So that's grading groups. This next part is going to be extremely helpful. How many of you guys have newcomers, EBs in your classroom? Okay, cool. This is going to be great for that, as well as any of your students who have a text-to-speech accommodation. So it's immersive reader. Anytime that you put something into Schoology and you have text that you've typed into Schoology, so you physically typed it, they have the option to use immersive reader. So when they open it, there's a button up in the right corner that says immersive reader. They'll just click that and it'll pull that text over to this screen. And there's a whole bunch of different options for what this can do. So first off, it can do...
Be sure to walk through each item of play button this playlist to make sure.
So the voice is actually not that bad. It's not that robotic or anything, so it's pretty fluent. There's also this button up here that gives a lot more options. So if you have a student who needs to be able to focus on one line at a time, they can do that. There's also the picture dictionary. So if they click on a word within that, it'll come up with a picture or a series of pictures that explains what that word is. And then for your newcomer students, they have the option to translate. So they can choose text. I've looked, and there's not Farsi, but there's Persian and Pashto in this, as well as Arabic and Spanish, of course. But they'll just go through, and students have the same exact access. This is both on student and teacher side. So they'll just look for their language, and they can translate the entire document. And then not only does it translate it, but
ની દરેક વસ્તુમાંથી પસાર થવાનું સુનિશ્ચિત કરો. તમારે
so this is great for those students who are unschooled and don't have any literacy within their home language. So you've got all kinds of options within this. Did you say plot twist? I love that. So I mean, this is something I wish I had. I taught ESL, so that's how I know Svetlana, and it would have been game changing for me. But again, this only works for text that has been input into Schoology. So if you attached a document or a PDF, it doesn't work on that. Anything that you've typed, though, it will work on.
The students will need some coaching on that button being there and to click it, because they're probably just going to ignore it. So your kids that get that text-to-speech accommodation or that need those language supports, like show that to them. Say this is going to be there in all of your Schoology courses. Anytime your teacher types something, you can click that and it'll give you that accommodation.
Yeah, for sure. You okay? Okay. Bless you. All right. Any questions about these differentiation tools? Awesome. Feedback and rubrics. This is also a really cool thing that Schoology has. Anytime that a student turns something in, there are many ways that you can give them feedback. So when you go in and you're grading the student, and it's a Schoology assignment, down at the right, there is a comment feature. So this is kind of your dialogue between you and the student. You can type it out. You can attach something if there's some sort of external file you want to pull in for feedback, or you can record yourself. So you can record just audio, or if you're feeling extra cute, you can do a video, or if for me, it would be I want them to know that I'm really serious and look them dead in the eyes in the video and say, hey, by the way, here's my feedback. That's a good tool too. You also have the option of inputting rubrics, and they are directly clickable. And once you've clicked it, it will add it up, because I don't know about y'all, but sometimes my brain doesn't want to add things together. And students will be able to see that on their end as well. They'll be able to see the rubric and exactly what they scored and what criteria. This comment feature, this is gradebook comments specifically. So it could be like turned in late, or anything that you would put in the gradebook. That's what this one is. This one on the right hand side is you and the student. This one is you in the gradebook. So to create a rubric, for RLA especially, you guys have SCRs, ECRs. You're probably going to be utilizing the same rubric each time you grade that kind of assignment. You can create it once, set it, and forget it. You can create it once, and then you can attach it to each subsequent assignment that needs that kind of rubric. So you just go to grade setup, and over here on the right, there's a button that says rubrics, and you'll see I've already created a whole bunch of them, and you just click add rubric. So it'll come up with this, and you title it, put down what criteria students need to do. I don't know exactly what you can. I would say you want to align it to whatever the STAR rubric is. Just whatever criteria it is. Yes. Yes. So down here, yeah, I wouldn't just leave it like this. I would put actual information, And this is, just an example, but yes, you can change that. You can also change the amount of points for each piece if you want it to come up to equal like 100 points, because that's kind of the general grading scale. Yeah.
You so it depends on which way you do a Google assignment. If you
Okay.
do a Google Drive assignment, you can do this exact rubric. If you do the like Google assignments, like yes, that one, it'll let you add a rubric, but it's going to be like a Google rubric, like in Google Classroom. Um, it would not be this one. Yeah.
So once you've created a rubric once, it will bank your rubrics for your class. Now, it does only bank it per class, but you can copy the rubric over to other classes by just clicking the settings and copy to course. Also, if you guys happen to have a Schoology group as a RLA department, you can create the rubric within those resources in your groups, whatever group that you have, and copy it over from there. So, yes. Any other questions about rubrics and feedback? That was a good question because I'm still, she helps me learn too. So, okay. On this slide, there's more resources for you to look back at. It just kind of reiterating things that we've gone over, or that Lauren would have gone over previously. This Schoology feature checklist is just kind of self-guided leveling up of your Schoology knowledge if you want to go ahead and learn more. Go Guardian, if you're not set up in it, there's a guide, and then also setting up your gradebook to tie over to Focus. But if either of these things just don't make sense, or anything doesn't make sense, you can always like email me. I'll come one-on-one if that's how you prefer to learn. Whatever it is that you need from me, I will help. Oops, didn't mean to click it, but this is what the checklist looks like. And it's got linked videos and click checklists and stuff. I keep clicking on the link instead of clicking the next slide. Okay. Deep breath, that's the first half. Cool. Here is the second half, and cool. Hopefully I'll get you guys out of here. So student goals and portfolios, these are going to be rolling out in advisory next week. So just to show you how that is going to work, this is the timeline set up for like Highlands Middle School. So Monday is when you'll start. There's two different kinds of goals. The ones that are rolling out in advisory are what are called life ready goals, and those are tied directly to the graduate profile. The good thing about you guys is that at the very beginning of the school year, you had the students choose their goals in Wildcat Camp. Now, do they remember those goals? That's a whole different story, but there is a fail-safe for that as well. So in your timeline, which you guys will get all of these resources, there are slides already prepared for you, kind of turnkey and ready to go. So for Monday, the first thing that you're going to do is go through these slides. While you're going through those slides, that paper that you guys have, you'll pass them out to your students, and that's their guided notes while you're going through. So if you guys want to take a look at that, that's up to you, but each student gets their own. So you'll go through these life ready goal setting processes and have a little choral read, because we love choral reads, right? So that morning, so Monday morning, students will be sent an email from the spreadsheet that they turned in, telling them what their goal that they chose was. So if they didn't submit the form at the very beginning of the year saying, hey, this is the goal that I chose, they won't get an email. If they don't get an email, they just need to fill out the form and decide what their goal is now. Then you'll go over the objectives, which is just making their life ready goal. and kind of explain the graduate profile. Hopefully, they've seen it before. Just explaining the importance of setting a goal based on the graduate profile. You're preparing them for life outside of school, things like that. Then you'll talk about setting goals, what they're going to be setting, and then you'll go through each of the goals they have to choose from. So there's 5 to choose from. Many of them have already chosen, but you'll go through each one of them, and they'll be taking notes with their guided notes right there.
So this part, since most of them already chose their goal, the main focus is going to be that discussion on, so if this is your goal, what could evidence of you working towards this goal look like? So heavily focus on the evidence piece, since most of the kids already picked their goal.
Yes. So once you've gone through it, for your students that haven't picked their goal, they have the choice to pick their goal. There is a chance for them, if they want to change their goal, they can. It just will have to be really quick. They need to submit that form again if they want to change. So on the last slide here is just for you guys to have some extra resources. There's the notes template, and then also this is really helpful in showing what evidence could look like for each of the goals, just to help guide them through. That's what the students are most likely going to struggle with the most, is coming up with evidence towards their goals that they will be entering into their portfolio. So that's the first day. The second day, so Tuesday during advisory, you'll just go through helping them set up their portfolios. The slides here are very, very similar to the slides that you guys had gotten for teacher portfolios, and the steps are pretty much the same as well. So they'll just go through, learn how to create their goal or their portfolio. Make sure that you emphasize this with them as well. They want to keep them unpublished for the same reasons you guys want them unpublished for the teacher ones. And then they can copy and paste their goal into the description. And on slide 9 are their cover image icons. So you'll want to, before you start going over this with students, you'll want them to open up this link. They'll just type it in and open it up just like you guys. And then they'll be able to access that link with the cover image icons. Okay, questions on the first 2 days? Okay, cool. The third day is going to be when students will upload their very first artifact into their portfolio. So just like teachers, students will be uploading an artifact per quarter. So quarter 1, you guys will be walking them through how to upload that first artifact. Those note pages, you'll take them up at the end of Monday's lesson, and you'll be handing them back to the students on Wednesday so that they can go through, remind themselves what artifacts could be, and then add their artifacts into their portfolio. And then Thursday is a catch-up day, so any students who need to go back, or if they were absent, just need extra time to kind of workshop, that's what that day is going to be for. Okay, questions on that? So that's the basic gist of the Life Ready goals for advisory next week. The other goals that students will create, so they have to create 2 goals. We only have 1, but they have 2. They have a student data goal, which will be in RLA, math, and science, but it's based on their map data. So they will get a map data tracker to import into their portfolio, where they will keep track of their progress as far as their map scores throughout the year. There's 1 map data tracker for all 3. So all 3, RLA, math, and science, are going to be in the same spreadsheet. So only one of their teachers needs to share it with them. Did we decide who's doing that first? Okay. That's to come. Well, that information's, yeah. And that will be the following week. It'll be due by the 18th. So again, portfolios will be added to every quarter with evidence. there will be an advisory lesson for students to do it in, so that it's not like, oh, I didn't remember to do that. We'll have reminders as an advisory lesson. And for those students, they have 8 classes. It's hard to choose one piece of evidence per quarter for their one goal from 8 classes. So to help them narrow it down, students have the option to tag school. Teachers have the option, yes, you're right, to tag assignments with the Life Ready goals. So to do that in Schoology, you will create an assignment. And when you're creating the assignment, you can go to learning objectives, which we all kind of skip past now. But now that we know what it is, we don't have to skip past it. You'll click the align button, custom learning objectives, school, and graduate profile competencies. There's a click sheet to kind of remind you what steps that is. And there are those options. So you can attach a specific Life Ready goal to the assignment that you're doing. So real world connections will probably be a lot of what RLA does. But there's also, financial literacy, critical thinking and problem solving, another one that RLA will probably do a lot, and effective communication, emotional. RLA does a lot of things. I'm not biased at all, though, right? So you'll select whichever competencies align to that assignment. And then when students go back to their Schoology account, they can filter by the competency. So all they have to do is in their course, they'll click the Mastery tab, and then it'll filter out the assignments by those objectives. So if their goal is real world connections, they'll have a list of the assignments that went towards that one goal. So this just narrows it down for them. It is still the student's choice as to what piece of evidence they decide to pull over to their portfolio. And that's not to say their portfolio does not have to be full of Schoology assignments. It can also be pictures. It can be links to things. It can be a file that they have on their device. Maybe they made a Canva or something like that. Or if, for example, their goal is communication, they can type about something that they did that worked towards that goal within a page. So when they add something to their portfolio, it comes up with this list, and they can click page and type directly what happened that worked towards that goal. So for example, in my RLA class, I did a presentation about X text, and here's how it went. Here's the things that I learned, things like that. Does that make sense? Okay. Any questions? So if students decide that they want to pull something over from Schoology into their portfolio, they'll just open the assignment, and this button will come up, and they click it, and it'll say plus add to portfolio, and that's all that there is to it.
What's the student buy-in for the portfolio?
So that's something that you've got to kind of hype up for them.
Okay.
So for the Life Ready goal, kind of pitch that you give them, you're working towards a goal that's not going to just help you within school, but it's going to help you outside of school. These are the things that whenever you decide you want a job, these are the things that your employers are going to be looking for, and you're going to want to grow that while you still can before getting out into the workforce, things like that.
Will this goal go with them through high school, or will they choose a new goal each year?
They choose a new goal each year. Yeah. So they'll have different portfolios for each.
Yeah, the portfolios will stay in their account from year to year, but they can choose a different goal next year.
What if they're choosing goals but different, how
What was the question?
what if they're choosing goals different so they can keep them?
Well, y'all are doing some sort of advisory grouping based on goal, right? Yeah, that's like campus specific. So that hasn't come up at another campus because other people aren't doing that. I mean, none of them are bad goals. So it's not bad if they're like, I'm going to work on a communication because this girl I like is working on communication. You know, it's not, that's not a bad thing to work on. So, you know, what their motive is for their goal, we can't control.
Well, and even if they do choose the same goal, there's no guarantee that they're going to be in the same grouping. You know?
There's only 5 goals, so
Yeah,
there's
so
way
there's
more than 5 classes.
yeah, exactly, and way more than 5 students. Any other questions on that? Awesome. So to keep up with the portfolio for students, there's going to be a quarterly advisory assignment that you'll put into Schoology for students to upload a new piece of evidence to their portfolio. That assignment is basically just giving them a reminder of how to do it. And you'll just copy the assignment from our school resources, just as a reminder of how to get there. You'll go to resources, groups, and why? Oh, did it? I'll have to talk to George again.
Oh,
It took me out of you, out of.
you can show them Liberty.
Liberty's not the same.
The resources are the
Yes, the resources are the same. So you'll just there's the portfolio assignment. You'll click the settings and you'll click add to course. And you'll get a reminder of how to do this each time as well, because I don't expect you to remember this by quarter 2. And this will start quarter 2. Quarter 1s, you don't have to do this. And it will look a little bit different for quarter 1 since teachers haven't had the opportunity to tag those life ready goals. So there might be a little bit more guidance needed from you guys. But after that, with the tagging of the life ready goals and things like that, it should be a little bit smoother. All right, that is all from me.